Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Mad Sounds podcast, where we talk about music and other whatevers. And right off the top of this episode, first of all, I'm kind of sorry this is a week and a half late, but I just had some other life stuff to take care of. And segue to talk about that, for those guys that didn't see the update on the YouTube channel from a couple weeks ago, I would definitely recommend looking at that since I give a little bit more detail about everything. But basically, I'm going to be cutting off videos on the YouTube channel for the time being and just focusing on uploading the podcast onto there as well as iTunes or wherever you listen to this, really. But it is for a pretty good reason if you're still into my content type stuff. So, you guys might remember a couple episodes ago, I talked to the guys from this company called the Orange County Music League, and I actually just got hired by them over the last few weeks. Right now, I have my first article with them. It's a concert review, actually, of When I Saw 68 a few weeks ago. You guys might remember I talked about their album a few episodes ago, and last episode, I brought him up with Crash because he did the Patreon quickie that I requested, and that quickie is up now. Did not turn out the way I wanted. No bad blood between us, mostly because there's one bit that he does in that, imitating one of the songs that's really hilarious. I'd actually really recommend you guys look it up. And I believe by the time this episode's up, I should have a Q&A with a local band called In Urgency up on there. That's sort of a promo for a show that's coming up next week in Riverside. For those of you guys that are in the SoCal area that, you know, want to support your local music scene. And just to kind of help get the word out there, on the top of every episode from here on out, I'm just going to recap any articles I might have, or other kind of content I might have posted on the OCML front, just to keep you guys in the loop about that. Just in case you aren't following me on Twitter, segue again! I'm amazing at this. That leads to the second thing, which is that I actually changed my Twitter handle. It was Spinner Reviews for a while, and I guess just for branding purposes, but again, for branding purposes, it's now at MarkMadSounds, so if you want to follow on there, then that's the handle to do just that. I'm too lazy to go through every video description of mine from the past and change it, so yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. If you do, feel free to rate, leave a review, subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already, or subscribe on iTunes, depending on which way you prefer to listen to this. I think iTunes is a little bit more convenient, but you know, it's fun to make those custom thumbnails for YouTube, I suppose. Oh, and one little thing about the OCML stuff that I totally forgot to mention, I'm glad I checked my little notes here, is that actually, for those guys listening to a podcast right now, you may be interested in the fact that I recorded a couple episodes of the OCML podcast, which you can check out both on their website, ocml.us, and on iTunes, of course. I was on an episode from a couple weeks ago that was all about pay-to-play, those two gigs that I had back in 2016 when Fully Involved wasn't really a thing yet. I basically recounted all the sketchy things going on there with some people around that know way more about the ins and outs of that than I do, and we basically just collectively crap on it for a good half hour or so, and that's actually pretty long for an episode of this podcast. They tend to actually go more like the 10-20 minute mark, just depending really. And I'm also going to be on another episode in a couple weeks from now, and again, I'll update you when that's up. Coming up are going to be the more annual tradition episodes, like the Grammy picks and predictions, which I'm going to be doing with Johnny, as well as the obscure year-end list, which I'm most likely going to be doing with John from ARTV, friend of the show, former host, etc. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Oh, and how can I forget, we're actually going to be starting off this episode sort of like we did last time, where we just get a cold reaction to probably the maddest sound I heard over the past couple weeks, as opposed to a new single. This time it's going to be an old B-side I came across from a few decades ago that just really caught my attention for reasons you'll hear later on. You could call it, you know, before Shake It Off, you got the original hater anthem, Critic's Choice by Chicago. Here's kind of a briefing of all the important parts.
What do you need? What do you need? Is it someone just to hurt, so that you can appear to be smart and keep a steady job, play God? What do you really know? oversight, misunderstanding what you hear, and volunteer absurdities, musical blasphemies, oh Lord.
So, did they remember halfway through that they turned delays on everything, or
That's not even
why
what,
did they?
That's not even what I was thinking about.
I mean, that was what stuck out to me, because I mean the lyrics were fucking. I don't understand. What did he mean? Like, I don't know what what stuck out to me was everything was on a delay. It was on like an echo delay, and then they end it, and then they bring it back. Like, I've never been the biggest Chicago fan, but even that's fucking weird.
So to kind of give context here, I really liked what we did last week with Crash and stuff, so I figured we would continue with the more literal mad sounds, and I would just pick the most baffling thing I heard this week. And I was in Fingerprints in Long Beach, good record store, shout out one time, and I came across this Chicago 45 for a song called Just You and Me, just kind of generic Peter Cetera adult contemporary thing, whatever. Yeah, what caught my attention more when I was looking at the 45 and what compelled me to buy it for those $2 whole was this B-side called Critic's Choice. With a name like that. This was exactly what I was imagining. This is the first Fuck You Haters song in history, I think. Maybe.
Yeah, no, like, the lyrics, they didn't match the sound at all. Like, I can never imagine Peter Cetera using his very dull and drab platform to call out his haters in such a sharp way, but his lyrics on it, they didn't match. On top of that, I wasn't kidding, there's a delay on everything. There's a piano delay, there's a vocal delay, and it's distracting. And I this may not have elicited the reaction you were wanting, Mark, because we both know what I've been through last night, and totally. I don't know what to listen to anymore with music. Yeah.
well, here's the thing. Like, unlike all my friends, like this is an entirely different variety of cold open. That one is more like sitting back and just like getting pissed off at it, whereas this one is more like something you reflect on and study. You know?
Yeah.
Actually, I'll correct you a little bit. Even though I mentioned Peter Cetera, this song actually is written, sung, and piano played by Robert Lamb, who's the keyboardist, according to...
Okay.
Yeah. And also, this is the opening track from Chicago 6, which... Very odd placement. Like, at first, when I saw this, like, okay, this is just like a dumb B-side, you know, you just, like, throw on as, like, a novelty. But no, this was their best foot forward on this album. And it only goes to show that the 70s era of every band releasing an album every year was a mistake.
Yeah, for sure. Something that some acts are doing today to some of their fans' behest. Looking at you, Mr. Tech 9. Please stop releasing 2 albums a year. You don't need to.
And aren't his albums like 80 minutes each anyway?
Yeah, and so he's making a 160-minute album, like songs, a year, and it's like, no, please.
Well, I mean, look, the funny thing is that switching it back around, like, Chicago was good on that self-titled Chicago 2 album, you know? You got your 25 or 6 to 4s, but here's the thing. I find it funny that this song came like in 1973, because this was before the You're the Inspirations and those other songs that Todd in the Shadows has decimated rightfully, or If You Leave Me Now, you know, all those songs. This came before all of that. So looking at this in retrospect, like, they might jump the gun a little bit.
Yeah, it gets worse from here.
Like, if they were sensitive to the little bits of criticism they got for, like, 25 or 6 to 4 or Make Me Smile or something like that, like, I can only imagine the mental state they were in by Chicago 17.
Let's just say they were Brian Wilson circa his psychological issues by the end of the 80s. That's a one dark joke one time for you Baroque pop enthusiasts out there. Yay, sadness. But welcome to the Mad Sounds podcast, where we talk about music and other some such happenings.
And also B-sides from dad rock bands from 43 years ago.
Yeah, and also Chicago, I guess, this week. Mark, you've had me listen to a lot of things I'm not happy about this week. And we've already have something else on the docket to discuss that I'm also not happy about.
Oh, no. Oh, wait. Oh, okay, this thing first. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
the first thing. So,
okay, cool. I got a little worried for a second, but okay.
Yeah, no. Yeah, first off, he's Mark, and I'm Johnny.
Indeed.
Welcome. Yeah. And so, yesterday, 2 days ago, I should say, because I thought about doing this on Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about listening to the new Chris Brown album, which, for those who don't know,
as you do,
it is 2.5 hours and 45 songs long. And I thought, why would I just experience this on my own when I can bring whatever passersby wish to join me along for the journey?
Yeah.
And so last night, as far as the day of recording this, last night, I sat down in my dining room where I'm sitting now while we record
5 hours.
For 5 hours, and I listened to Heartbreak on a Full Moon by Chris Brown. And I will, because the archive stream is not available on YouTube because copyright, because I did listen to the whole album without I broke up the songs to talk about them, but that obviously isn't going to fly on YouTube, so I'll be uploading it by the time this podcast goes up.
Sounds good. Oh, by the way, I should probably clarify to you guys, just so you don't get it mixed up, this is not to be confused, if you listen to the last episode, this is not to be confused with the keyboardist that played on 5 songs on the Tragically Hip's Music at Work. Just clarifying.
No, we're talking about the
we don't want any defamation suits here.
Yeah, we're talking about the piece of shit human being Chris Brown, known to be an R&B pop star in the 2000s.
Yeah, Chris Brown, who beats women.
Who beats women and decides to make a record where he's sad that he beats women and tries to win remorse back for the fact that he beats women. Yeah, and doesn't say says he'll be loyal, yet also writes songs about infidelity on the next fucking track. It's a train wreck of an album, people. Like, you thought this Train album that Mark had me sit through on a podcast was bad? This is 10 times worse. 1, because it's 2 discs long, and 2, it's Chris fucking Brown.
Yeah, and I'll test for that. I actually was one that made that claim, comparing it to that now classic Mad Sounds episode where I explained a girl, a bottle, a boat to you for an hour. So I was listening to it secondhand, obviously, through laptop speakers, but I still was listening to that whole album technically. So even though I feel like that's not enough for me to put it on my worst of the year list, because what fun is that?
Yeah.
But even then, I was saying in the comments of that, me and the 2 other people watching can vouch for it, that this was definitely worse than the Train thing that I put you through.
Yeah. So I'd say we're even, Mark.
That's fine. Like, between the Train thing and me putting you through that one Imagine Dragons song, I think we're good.
Now Chicago and everything else this week. That not everything in your recommendations, but some of your recommendations this week.
Yeah, because there were a couple. It goes across the board of my ratings this year, and I like that because. So I'll say, we have a bigger segment we're doing right after this, and it seems like for the first couple installments of like this new review gauntlet thing we'd had, it was a little too positive, like, and even in the last one when he tore into Macklemore and Imagine Dragons, the aforementioned makers of I don't know why, and Yesterday, which We're only going to be even once you listen to that, by the way. But anyway.
Okay. Okay.
What I was saying is that even with that, it was still a little disproportional. But luckily, we only have like 6 albums. Well, it would be technically 10 because 4 in each of our own individual lists plus 2 in overlap for the what you've been listening to. So that a bit more even mix, I'd say, of the negative to the positive.
Yeah, definitely. This week's going to be a neutral party. This is going to be neutral. We're going to be chaotic neutral on this Mad Sounds. Shout out one time for the D&D crew. Mad
Sounds centrist edition.
We're not leftist or rightist. We are
horseshoe theory up in this podcast, baby.
political paranoia in this podcast, baby.
Yeet.
Yeets. All of my yeets. To all of the yeets, I say, let's eat. So this week, I pitched this idea for Mark for another installment of Hook Reports.
Theme song.
Check this out. It's a new presentation, assigning explanation. The other guys got some doubts for the Hook Reports. Hook Reports.
Continue.
And the last time we did a Hook Reports with me and Mark, it was the first time. And I wanted to throw a theme out there that I thought was fitting. Underrated 90s, because hashtag all 90s kids around, right? Memes.
Sure.
Of albums or from bands that didn't get a good shot. They may have had a hit, or they may have had like a small stir in the popular consensus, but they weren't.
Success.
We didn't feel like they got their due.
Yeah, totally. And I think that it's interesting because the two bands that we chose are kind of, in a way, like two different types of what would be defined as underrated, because without saying specific names right now, like yours are a little bit more of a cult success, whereas mine, like, they had their crossover hits and stuff, but they don't really get talked about anymore. Like I feel
they don't. Yeah, well, and that's the other interesting thing. So the two that we picked, after listening to the album you sent me, I was like, out of the 2 albums we could have possibly picked for this theme, they both fit our hashtag aesthetics the most.
Right?
Because yours is a very power pop, alternative rock record, where mine's like a beat jazz, poetry, alternative rock, jazzy. It's very jazz centric.
Yeah, and actually let's just start naming, and since you're describing it now, let's just start with yours.
Yeah, so I threw the debut record from underrated 90s gods, Soul Coughing, Ruby Vroom, came out in 1994. And Mark, what did you think about old Ruby Vroom?
Okay, this might sound a little relevant at first, but I'm going to circle back to it.
Okay.
So, following last week's episode, where Crash and I had a little conversation on the topic of duos, and I thought... And we were talking about the duos that really stand out in our opinion. Groups like Japan Droids or Death from Above or 68, as I assumed he was agreeing with because I gave him a Patreon request. And I'm going to... shots fired coming, by the way, Mr. Thompson. And I don't know, maybe you can pass this message along to him in real life, indie man, but... but he covered it and promptly gave it a 2.5 out of 5, and I got a little bit peeved, not gonna lie, but we're cool.
Yeah.
And where I'm going with that is that now I know how he feels to be giving thoughts to someone that was very excited.
Oh, I don't expect you to like this, Mark. I'm gonna be honest. I don't expect you to like this at all.
Okay, let me explain myself.
Okay, yeah, let me hear it.
So,
well, do you want me to tell you why I suggested or why I feel like Soul Coughing didn't get their just due, or do you want to talk about the record first?
Okay, yeah. Without going into why you like it specifically, say why you chose this one specifically.
I chose Soul Coughing as a band in general because, like I said, I feel like outside of their a couple of songs that have notoriety within certain circles from their last record, which is also really good, and they played us their single from their second album and the Five Guys I used to work at,
Okay.
Their debut, them in general, their debut doesn't get a whole lot of chop or a whole lot of just due outside of a lot of the songs are on their greatest hits. But it's a great start for their sound, and it's a small niche in 90s culture, both in styles on the record and down to its album art and stuff. That's so intrinsically within the decade. I don't know if it would work outside of that.
Yeah.
So that's why I picked it.
Yeah, for better or worse, I would definitely agree with that. And I'm going to start by saying that I totally understand why this gravitates to you, because I can on an instrumental level, I can kind of see this as like a sort of smoother, jazzier, like, I'm getting a couple Primus vibes here and there, especially in a little bit in the bass work. Maybe not quite as slappy, not quite as ridiculous, but if I had to compare to one other band of like the 90s alt-rock oeuvre, you know, they would be the first one to come to mind. Again, especially in that rhythm section, which to me is by far the best part of the record. Like that's my favorite. That's my favorite half of the band members.
Yeah.
Followed closely by the guitarist, you know, had a couple little nice little flourishes in there.
Yeah.
And I would probably be giving this a glowing recommendation if it was instrumental.
So you don't like Mike Dougherty? You don't like Mike Dougherty at all?
You know, I had a little bit of exposure to him before because I picked up a 7-inch a few years ago. That's like a split between him as a solo artist and Moonhooch, who's like this instrumental saxophone, ska-ish kind of band. They're kind of hard to explain, but they're cool.
Yeah.
And I remember liking that song okay, but I have a feeling that maybe I should listen to his later stuff because it seems like he maybe toned down on the beat poetry a little bit over the years.
He gets more concise with his writing, that's for sure, especially by Soul Coughing's third album. And this is actually the comparison I give to Soul Coughing, and you may think this is a little weird at first.
Go ahead.
But I call Soul Coughing the Talking Heads of the 90s.
I can see it.
They're so well indebted to the culture of the decade. The Talking Heads, you can't listen to them without thinking, oh, post-punk of the 80s. Especially when they get a little new wavy and stuff. Soul Coughing they only have 3 records. Soul Coughing only have 3 albums, and in those 3 albums, they encapsulate so much about the offset 90s alternative scene. But on their third record, they do and their second record has some catchy moments too. But their third record, they definitely rein in a lot of that abstract lyricism, and it's a lot more catchy. Like they're bigger. That's why the album that has their most notable songs, as far as people, that's where it's from. Like, their song Circles was a hit to some people, you know, stuff like that. Okay,
you know what? So, on my last listen to this earlier today, I actually was able to take, like, little track-by-track notes. And I think, honestly, even though this maybe shouldn't be, like, a regular thing for Hook Reports, I think that I do want to kind of skim through these to give you a good idea of where I was at.
Yeah.
So, Is Chicago Is Not Chicago. I think I might have heard this song. This is the one song that I might have heard one other place before. I have no idea where, though. It just, the whole Chrysler Building part just sounded kind of familiar to me.
A man drives a plane into the Chrysler Building.
I mean, I think I sang it while you were here, because I love Soul Coughing, and I might have had it at some point on while you were here.
Gotcha. But yeah, like I pointed out, I like kind of the walking bass line going on there, the bouncing drum work, like a real sense of musicianship going throughout this thing that I really appreciate it.
Sure.
And this is maybe one of the few songs I can tolerate on repeated listens just because it's got kind of a decent core melody going on throughout it. Like, it doesn't isn't getting too Mike Dougherty, and I'll explain that more as I go on. But even though there is still the man.
So I love that. I love that. I love the melody that he sings within that.
Again, it's the inflection, it's the tone, it's the
nasally. Do you not like
nasally.
the nasal? It's super nasally.
Okay, and then Sugar Free Jazz. I just put that I dozed off halfway through.
That's understandable.
Although
it's sugar free.
Yeah.
You know, I thought it would appeal to you.
I mean, true. I mean, I do have a sugar-free cream soda right in front of me, but hey, don't stereotype, don't marginalize me, you carb lord.
I'm sorry.
With your Pepsi in front of you.
And
disgusting.
Actually, I finished the Pepsi, but I ate a pizza last night and a pizza before we started recording.
Your endocrine system really better check its privilege, buddy.
Oh, for sure, or else it'll fail, and I'll go into cardiac shock.
Hey, only I can make coma and amputation jokes around here, buddy. Okay?
Okay.
I'm diabetic, in case any of you just started tuning into this episode. Anyway. Okay. But now, the part where I really started getting annoyed was Casio Nation.
You don't like Casio?
Okay, I'm gonna put what I wrote here.
Casio.
I'm gonna put what I wrote here verbatim. Where I started getting annoyed. Dude, I get it. Consumerism is a thing. What else? Say more than one different word per line. The groove's good though. That's one song where where I would really like an instrumental version or maybe a karaoke version. I don't know.
That's one of the songs especially where like it's getting, we are poetic, we have a thing to say in a beat fashion.
We think we are very smart about culture.
Yeah,
man.
That's driving a plane
into the Chrysler Building. I think that really what it boils down to with me and his delivery, which is kind of the nail in the coffin for me on this record, because again, I really appreciate 3/4 of this band.
Yeah.
It's that, and again, this is probably just a personal sensibility thing with me, and I don't normally have like super hardline stances on certain things in music.
Yeah.
But something that I have just grown zero patience for over the course of this year, between this and like a couple other records, is that I don't have a problem with like a monotone vocalist or like someone that has more of a speaking delivery or like isn't quite as in your face with conviction and all that, because sometimes it's part of the point. But the second I detect smugness, I'm done. And that was just coded all over this record, and I could not stand him.
But
because
get onto
of
the
that.
bus. That takes you back to Beelzebub.
I just wrote, "This is hell."
It's gonna make you start going rub-a-dub, Mark.
I put the warped vibe might have worked if it had a front end with some goddamn conviction.
God. See, I thought you would have at least liked Moon Sammy.
I like the instrumental of it, but okay, and also like, you know, Blue Eyed Devil. The first note I put was that's got awesome drum work, and I appreciate that's one where I did get kind of more of a primacy kind of vibe in the rhythm section with kind of a smoother edge, with kind of a bit more of smoothing of the edges, but. You know, even though it might have benefited from some more, like, again, some quirk and conviction on it to kind of fit that, to give it more of that primacy kind of appeal. And I should say that on my first listen, I stopped it twice and just to do other things, and this was when I stopped it the first time.
Yeah, on Blue Eyed Devil?
Yeah.
See, I feel like, and I figured if you were gonna like it, you would have liked his voice. But I knew, I was like, Mark's not really the kind of guy to like a singer like Mike Doherty, on top of the incredibly obtuse lyricism that, like, I know you like obtuse lyricism and you like dudes like Aesop Rock, but this is like Tom Waits level of absurd lyricism.
Because like, you know, last episode, we were talking about the Tragically Hip, and Gord Downey has a really obtuse, obtuse, dense lyrical style, but it's in more of a kind of a Michael Stipe kind of way, where it's like,
for sure,
where it's still kind of fun to follow along with, you know?
Yeah. I mean, to put it in perspective, True Dreams of Wichita was written specifically full of inside jokes between him and two friends he had a love triangle with.
I saw that in the description of it on Genius.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was sort of doing a little bit of soul searching as going through this, thinking about, like, you know, am I holding a double standard here? Like, you know, because I'm thinking about the other sort of not totally singy, like, monotone, like, not, like, a little bit bored sounding people that I am a fan of, like, the closest person came to mind was like Stephen Malkmus from Pavement, or like a car seat headrest, or like a Courtney Barnett, or Lou Reed's probably an influence for a few songs here. And I don't know, like I can't really put my finger on it, but I feel like there's like an extra charm or like slack, or like I think it's the fact that they don't have the smugness to make up for it, or at least it's not as upfront. It's more of like a disaffected alternative vibe going on, instead of the beat poet club reject snap applause vibe I'm getting from Mike on this thing.
Yeah. Well, that's I mean, I do think you'll like El Oso more because there's more songs on it. Like, there's more sing-along hooks. If you can think about that with the singer. I mean, I'm
not necessarily asking for it to be more accessible, just less, like, thinking it's better than me.
Well, and that's what I mean. Like, the El Oso songwriting isn't so much smug as it is just less obtuse. It's still got its eccentricities for sure, but there's a lot more focus on creating a sound that's more broadly pleasing. Like, there's still songs like the opener on also still has this repeated phrase of "Hey Norm, it was a throne with a broken arm," and then they cut to like this fucking tuba sounding low end thing.
Cool. I'm down for that.
But yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it's got its soul coughing touch, but it's less snappy fingers on their last record. But
so what I put for that song is that it's Where I Stopped the Second Time, and not one of the more annoying ones vocally for me, but still the true dream, especially when I started really elongating it toward the end.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And also, like, even with like the rhythm section and stuff, this is the point where I was like, okay, I get the formula by now.
Oh yeah, no, there's definitely a distinct character sonically they're going for, and they definitely use that and don't do too many detours. Like, they detour a little bit on like Blue Eyed Devil with like the sample work of the old band from the cartoons and stuff that was using cartoons and stuff, but yeah.
And I don't know, like, I feel like when it comes to a more experimental style like this, it kind of takes the wind out of the sails to have such an obvious formula going for it. But that's yeah. And again, I totally get the appeal, but I actually do kind of like that this is the first Hook Reports where it's a little bit contentious. It's cool.
Oh no, for sure.
But where I'm gonna start putting the foot down a little bit harder is on Screenwriter's Blues.
Okay. If you didn't like Casio Tone, you're not gonna like Screenwriter's Blues.
This was the repeat of Casio Tone, and again, I'm gonna go verbatim here. Where I get more annoyed, dude, I get it. Hollywood culture is a thing. What else? Do things other than mentioning dark things happening at locations.
Yeah.
and it was around this point.
But that's all you need, Mark. It's deep. # deep.
And around this point is where I started getting the reminder that, like, so on the next episode we're going to be talking about the new World's a Beautiful Place album. And back in 2014, what this reminded me, they put out this EP that was like a collaboration with this spoken word artist, and it was basically just really good The World's a Beautiful Place, like alt rock emo-ish instrumentals, but with this really obnoxious poetry on top of it. And this is just the vibe I got, where it's like,
true emo.
I like what they're playing, but dude, get out of the way.
It's not yeah.
Especially, and like, you are listening. It made me want to punch my laptop screen. I'm sorry.
No, dude, I totally like I told you, like I was saying, I didn't expect you to like this as much as I do. I was hoping you would, but I know this isn't wholly up your alley. For sure.
And I'm gonna kind of breeze through the rest of these. Moon Sammy I thought actually wasn't bad. That one gave me actually kind of like a 90's Beck vibe.
I can see that.
And like the backbeat and the guitar tones, more the rapish cadence. Still like a minute too long, but you know. Then I dozed off for one song. One song I gave up reading Genius and just replied to a couple emails. Two songs I just wrote I Want to Die. Those being A Zoom Zip and Down to This.
I figured you wouldn't like A Zoom Zip. That's very scat jazzy.
I might have forgiven him for everything else, but the scatting, dude. The scatting.
But it's jazz. It's jazz, Mark. It's very rooted in jazz culture, and scatting.
You know what?
Was a big
shout
part
out
of jazz,
to the Julian Loves Music podcast. They have a segment called Good Jazz or Bad Jazz. This was bad jazz. I actually did kind of dig Mr. Bitterness, at least for the instrumental. That one actually, it's weird because that one's probably like the biggest detour taking instrumentally for me. I definitely got some more like, I can see where like LCD Sound System would have been influenced by a track like this for sure.
I can see that. Yeah. If I were to pick a Talking Heads of the 2000s, it would be LCD Sound System. So for them to take...
Yeah, you mentioned that when we talked about their new record.
Yeah, for sure. But that's more in line with they were just flat out inspired by the Talking Heads, not this is a band that has the ideals of the decade they were born in and left in, and also continued the trajectory of being more accessible as they went along.
Okay, that's fair. And then for Janine, I just put, this is going from I'm leaving this beat poetry club to I'm leaving this coffee shop. It's like the acoustic closer. It's fine. It's one of the more tolerable ones because again, like it's kind of the album's kind of bookended with decent melodies, so I can't hate it too much. And again, 75% of this band, right on. I appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing.
Calm down, Mike Doherty.
I know Mike's doing solo stuff. Are these other guys doing anything right now?
I don't know. I don't know what the other guys are still coughing doing. If I'm being honest.
I'm sure, and like you're saying, I'm sure that Mike kind of, I'm not saying that he did the right thing and streamlined, but that's what I'm saying.
My next recommendation for the next Shook Reports is going to be LO. So I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Honestly, I kind of had an idea while you were describing that of like later on, like sort of doing a second chance Hook Reports where it's like,
okay,
if you hated this album by this band I recommended, why don't you just try this one and see if you like it more.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
So like,
I like that idea.
Maybe when we get like when we get like 10 of these under our belts, then yeah.
She cracked now they call me Mr. Bitterness. She snapped now they call me Mr. Bitterness.
Then we can do the latest fastball because I fucking hate this thing. No, I'm kidding.
Oh no!
I'm kidding.
Okay, yeah.
I'm kidding.
Okay. Nice transition, by the way. Nice segue.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I did kind of subtly toss like, "Hey, do you want to listen to a couple things from the Fastball album from this year?" And you're like, "Nah."
Well, that wasn't because I hated this album. It's just because I had other stuff I've been trying to get to and work through.
That's fair.
On top of listening to Fastball and this other stuff.
That's fair. And I wasn't gonna say listen to the whole album, but like just
just a couple tracks. I'll probably still end up checking out a couple tracks.
I'll describe to you later on. But anyway, so I'm gonna give my description for this. So for mine, I decided to give Fastball's "All the Pain Money Can Buy" from I believe 1998. Yeah. And my history with this band is that so because I was 2 when this album came out, making you feel like I'm not young.
I was 6.
See, you were already in elementary school, and I was a youngin'.
Pussy.
Thanksgiving was 2 days ago, man. Come on.
Hey, I'm sorry, man.
So naturally, I ended up getting into this band kind of retroactively, mostly through a VH1 special of the 100 greatest songs of the 90s that came out when I was like 11 or 12 or so, and at I believe number 97 or something on that list. So just barely scraping on, way under the U2 ones and Mariah Carey's and what are some other ones below the Humpty Dances of the world. Was a song by a band called Fastball called The Way. I really enjoyed it. I'd never really heard anything like that, and honestly, there isn't really anything else on this album that has that kind of stylization to it. The thing is, I actually didn't listen to this album in full until I found it, unfortunately, in the bargain bin at a record store, a used CD copy of this for $2. And
that
I
was here.
Hey.
Yeah, you found that here.
Oh yeah. So what? Yeah. I totally forgot. So this actually happened while I was in Indy. Actually, yeah. At that one store, I saw hey, I like that song, and unfortunately, the other single, Out of My Head, has gotten kind of a resurgence as of late.
Yeah, with Mr. Machine Gun Kelly.
And
what's her face?
And Camila Cabello as as commenters get really anal about the pronunciation of, so I was very careful about that.
Yeah.
But those would it be harmonizers if she's even in the group anymore? Like, I don't even know. That honestly, that Havana song's okay, so can't hate too much. But anyway, back to this. Let's forget about that song completely. Because Out of My Head's way better.
Yeah, it is.
Was I out of my head? Was I out of my mind? How could I have ever been so blind? I was waiting for an indication. It was hard to find. Don't matter what I say, only what I do. I never mean to do bad things to you.
Yeah. So anyway, I figured I would get this album, and because I was a big fan of those two songs, so I see what else is on here. And this is actually while we were talking about this underrated 90s album thing, and I was kind of struggling with that. And I was thinking, like, oh, am I going to go with, like, EMF? Because I really like that first album. Because, that could work for maybe a future one,
Yeah.
But I ended up going with this because I was just instantly hooked on it. So now I want to know what you think of All the Pain Money Can Buy.
So I'm gonna do a little detour real quick. While I was listening to this album, especially the first time, well, obviously the first time I did, I realized I knew more than just the two singles. I've heard 4 songs from this album before.
Well, I mean, I know that Fire Escape was in her single.
Fire Escape I had heard, and 2 of them I heard from the same source. Fire Escape and Sooner or Later.
Really?
I had heard from Disney Channel original movies. Fire Escape was used in Johnny Tsunami. So was The Way.
Whoa, wait, hang on. This is the second mention of Johnny Tsunami on this podcast. Do you remember?
Yeah.
This is trippy.
But also, Brink, the Disney Channel original movie, Brink had Sooner or Later in it, as did The Waterboy, but I don't remember it in that. I remember it in Brink. Because when I listened to when I first heard Fire Escape, which is a good song, I was like, where have I heard this before? And I thought it was Scrubs, so I YouTubed Fire Escape, Fastball, Scrubs, and I didn't get anything, so I IMDb'd Fastball, and it was on Johnny Tsunami, and I was like, fuck yeah, it was. And then I had the same thing with Sooner or Later, and I was like, where have I heard Sooner or Later? And then I looked on the IMDb, I was like, fucking Brink, it's on the scene where he's working, he's on the he's like, it's a montage, they play that song.
All the best songs come from those.
So it was weird, I had this weird experience listening to this record the first time, where I was like, wow, I didn't know all of these guys wrote these songs I think are alright. And I think this record's okay. I don't hate it. I think it's
a step up from me.
Yeah, I think it's kind of, and this is gonna sound very condescending, but this sounds like I like Soul Coughing, but very of the 90s in a very average way.
Totally.
They kind of run the gambit on all of these ideas that are explored in popular, not just popular rock, but popular music in the 90s. Like The Way kind of has this Livin' La Vida Loca piano line.
What? Okay.
There's while having this kind of more melodic cake style delivery.
That's another band that like I like the monotone, disaffected delivery of more than Mike. I really gotta just do some more soul searching on why I prefer him over that.
Yeah. There was another song. I think it was earlier on the record. I don't remember which one it was.
Better Than It Was. You said Better.
It was either Better Than It Was or Which Way to the Top, where the singer almost took on this Weezer-esque tone to his voice. Okay. Like the singer definitely has this way of being this almost chameleon, and I enjoyed that. But I felt like,
did you know there are 2 singers in this band? You know that, right?
I didn't know there were 2 singers. So one of them, I guess, sounds like an offshoot of Rivers Cuomo.
Yes.
On one song.
So it's funny because like they actually kind of alternate track to track. Actually, if you look at the track listing of this thing, yeah, there's only like one case where one of them sings 2 songs in a row. But the 2 singers on this thing are Tony, Tony Scala, I believe his last name, who actually sings on both The Way and Out of My Head. And he has kind of the more kind of drawl to it, maybe the more kind of distinct sounding. has a bit, it's a little bit more distinct sounding to the band, whereas Miles, the other singer, who's the guitarist, Tony's the bassist, this isn't to say he's any less good than Tony, but he has kind of more the expected 90s alt-rock voice, you know?
And that I guess those were the songs where I had heard. I was like, this kind of sounds like every other kind of 90s cut from vocally.
Yeah, but Sooner or Later, that one's him, yeah.
Yeah, but then there's Sooner or Later, which kind of has this kind of almost late 90s, and I don't want to say pop punk, but slacker punk tone to it, with this kind of laid back, higher mid-tempo. Good Old Days has horns on it. Horns don't really turn up anywhere else on the record, and that's kind of, horns were a 90s thing.
Ska.
And then I think Charlie the Methadone Man is, I think, the other one that has the same kind of, it has the organ sound that was used in, like, a lot of, like, Hootie and the Blowfish, like, alt roots rocky stuff, Counting Crows. So I feel like this thing suffers from an identity crisis. It's just trying to be so many different things without completely finding a foot to stand on.
Okay. I can see that. I mean, I kind of see a cohesion with just like the place it has in its sect in rock, but I totally get where you're coming from with some of those detours. I
think it has that foothold because it's trying to do everything at once. Like my issues with this stem from the issues I had with the 1975's last record. I think
which I also loved,
and I think they spread themselves a little too thin on. I think they're talented guys, but they at least on this record, they needed to find a little more of an identity instead of trying to adorn everybody else's. There is some identity here. There's a character. I'm not saying it's as bad as Macklemore and not having a character. They at least have some grasp of an idea of how they want to sound. They just keep throwing these flavors and ideas in there that don't tie the record together. They more kind of give it more phrase.
Okay, I feel it, and I think maybe the fact that it is literally going back and forth between two different songwriters might have something to do with it.
And that I think that also gives it this kind of split personality. The record,
and
it's not,
and you know, this isn't like a Blink-182 situation where it's like there's a blatant split between the two where they have like totally different appeals. You can tell them apart. But at the same time, like, I can see.
I don't think it's bad. I think it's about average for me. It's got a lot of good songs. It's got a lot of good hooks, and good ideas. Like I like Sooner or Later. Fire Escape's an okay jam. I didn't like Good Old Days. That's one song I really didn't enjoy. And I think it's because it's for the same reason I don't like the Green Day song with Horn in it. Like,
oh, King for a Day?
Yeah, I would almost equate this to Nimrod. This record, All the Pain Money Can Buy, I would equate it to Nimrod.
Nimrod's a contender for my favorite Green Day album. So.
And see, I like Nimrod, and I guess my issue is I want bands with consistency, damn it, as far as a character. That's why I like Soul Coughing. Then no one else sounds like Soul Coughing, goddammit. But I don't think it's bad. I do think they're the worser for it, but I'm not gonna knock them too. I'm gonna knock them for being for spreading themselves thin, but I'm not gonna knock them for experimenting. If you get my drift, if that makes any sense.
For me personally, I think that the niche they fill, and this is like sort of like a hang up I didn't realize I had was the smugness thing. I kind of like when there's like a certain type of niche sound that just instantly grabs me, and I know what that is. The best way I can describe it is like a rock band that plays the rock sound of the time, but with that timeless, like, kind of Beatlesy way of, like, song structures and melodies and stuff like that. So it's just that kind of interesting fusion going on. It's probably why I'm a big fan of, like, the Smithereens, for example, as far as, like, 80s bands. Where on my last listen, it kind of clicked with me that, you know, this came out in 1998. The fact that this came right in the middle of the Weezer hiatus, you know, like, it kind of has that similar kind of appeal of, it has that kind of crunchy 90s alt-rock sound, but it's also, like, has these super candy-coated melodies and harmonies and stuff like that doesn't totally...
That Everclear wasn't doing well enough.
That doesn't totally dirge in its own angst, you know?
Yeah.
But still has those kind of sonic qualities that you would go to this kind of era for.
I would say this is diet Diet 90's. That's what I would classify this record as, just personally. It's like I said, it's very of its time. Like Soul Coughing is very of its time, but in a way that I guess clicks with me. Whereas this is an album that's very of the 90's, a decade that I'm like many people a big fan of. But there's a lot on here that I felt like was a reflection of ideas, musical ideas that don't age as well with time. I feel like, and this is I guess because I'm a jazz enthusiast, I think jazz ages very well. It's like wine. Organs in your alternative rock and one song with horns on it doesn't age. It makes you sound dated to me. You know what I mean?
Okay. Although in a way, like I think the fact that it does have sort of that like 60s pop rock kind power, like you were saying, power pop kind of quality to it, does make it a little bit more fluid in the as far as decade go. But as far as like those detours you're talking about, I totally understand that in the case of some tracks. I feel like a song like Fire Escape is a good example, or like a warm or like Warm Fuzzy Feeling, or like examples, or like Sooner or Later, just examples of like, you know, you can't go wrong with writing a song like this at any time, you know.
See, I don't think Sooner or Later is a good example of timeless songwriting. Only because
maybe not that actually, but
I think it's very indebted to the late 90's.
You know, maybe more like Out of My Head, as far as like something that could.
Out of My Head for sure. Out of My Head's a great, well written song. It's got a great melody. Its chorus is very catchy. I think there's a reason why there's a resurgence of its usage now.
No matter how well done.
Exactly. I mean, hey, Chris Brown did the same thing multiple times.
Remember the time.
Yeah. When I heard that song, I wanted to eat my bullets. Sweetwater, Texas, though, was a song I was kind of surprised by.
Yeah,
just because it was a very mellow closer. Kind of in the same way Janine was, but in a way that was very... I almost didn't expect it with the record that preceded it, because it was very pop. It still had a lot of those ideas, but it was in a very mellow setting. And I liked it. I thought it was a fitting... kind of way to smooth out the record.
Okay, yeah, I did kind of appreciate it, because like, you know, for as much as reservations as you're having on this thing, like, again, it doesn't, you never wrote in your notes I want to die. So. Well,
no, yeah, I don't think it's there's not as much of a split.
So I can't
me with this record.
I can't say too much. I can't take too much exception. Yeah, you know. Yeah, just because
I think it's also because I've heard far worse this week than Fastball. I don't think I could ever hate Fastball. I can hate a lot of the shit I've heard this week.
Same, by proxy, because you actually. So
yeah.
That in a way could make me indirectly hate Soul Coughing more.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's good.
I do want to say like a couple of like the lyrical kind of quirks. Like, it's funny. I was playing this album. Actually, the last time I was playing this album was on a long drive up with my dad, and I was just kind of curious, like, to see if he reacted to anything, and the only thing he reacted to was the title line of Charlie the Methadone Man.
Really?
He's like, Charlie the Methadone Man? Okay. And I was like, it's 90s alt rock, Dad. Just, that's how it goes then.
I like the lyrics of that song, too. I like the lyrics of Charlie the Methadone. I thought it was a nice little...
And it's kind of one of those moments where it's like, where it's like, the name is Charlie the Methadone Man, but it's sung like, Charlie the Methadone Man. You know, it's got that... It's got that insert 21 Pilots lyric here kind of appeal to it, you know. Maybe I'll just splice that line from Not Today into every episode. I'll just have it on deck with the theme songs and stuff to plug in anytime I like.
We'll start developing a soundboard of song clips, and one of them needs to be a man.
Yeah. True dreams
of Wichita.
We're going through this whole theme of it being underrated, but actually what also drove me to listen to this is that the following week they played a show in LA, in Pasadena, and just it seemed like good timing, so I decided to go to that, and I talked to them afterwards, and you know, I'm sure that any, you know, kind of classic, I'm sorry to say classic, I know the Goo Goo Dolls were getting a little bit of trending on Twitter because the Macy's parade called them classic, and everyone was freaking out about that. All the 90s kids.
No one wants to get old. We're the 90s.
Yeah. anyway. But yeah, like with any classic band, it's 20 years ago. Get over it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was hearing Nirvana songs in 2011 on classic rock radio. It's okay. Just settle into your home. It's okay.
Take your pills. Take your pills. It's okay.
Take just one little shot.
Just a little shot. You'll be okay. You'll be okay. I want to be on the real world. Real world hasn't been on the air in 45 years, Janine.
Where's my OC DVDs?
I wanna watch Teen Mom. Teen Mom isn't a thing anymore.
Put on that new TRL. TRL was canceled after one episode. No one cares about it anymore. What?
I want my MTV. That's the 80s. You weren't even alive yet. See, I can make fun of these people because these are my people. We are...
Put on Jersey Shore!
I wanna be on the Jersey Shore. I wanna watch Shrek! Shrek was outlawed in 2056 because someone tried to run for president as Shrek and came close to winning, so the government banned Shrek as a form of media consumption. You should know this. Who are you?
You have Shrek 3? I'll settle.
I'll settle for Puss in Boots. The TV show?
I mean, I haven't seen that movie, but I heard it wasn't terrible. I'll settle.
I want to watch The Mask of Zorro with Antonio Banderas.
But not that crappy sequel that ruined my childhood.
Can I watch Spy Kids 1, but not Spy Kids 4? They don't have the actors in it.
I'll take Spy Kids 3D. Game over, though.
Can I have my glasses to watch the 3 dimensions, please?
It reminds me of the good old days of 2009.
Yeah. In summation, my generation refuses to grow old, and it's sad.
So I went up to Fastball after that show. Like I said... I feel like older artists, like hearing that the people of the younger generations are getting into it, whether retroactively or in their newer stuff, like we were talking about Tom Petty a few episodes ago, and he's like the king of that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So after the show, I saw, they put on a pretty good show, so I decided to go up to them afterwards to the merch booth, and I was like, hey, I've been really gravitating and attaching to All the Pain Money Can Buy. I even brought my copy of it for them to sign.
Really? Did they sign it?
Along with getting a copy of their new album.
Nice.
But then things seem to be going with it. But then I said, yeah, I just think it's like one of the more like underrated albums in the '90s, and they seemed kind of confused by that.
Really?
They kind of took exception.
I think because they
because it did have hits.
Yeah.
But I guess they don't really go. They're probably not in like the Pitchfork and Rate Your Music circles too much.
No,
these days,
not at all.
Where like I doubt either of those places gave much mind to Step Into Light, the album from this year, which is pretty solid. I gotta say, I do want to give a mention to that. That album. It's funny you said you wanted them to get more of a focused sound. I'm not sure if that album's quite as good as All Pain Money Can Buy. But it does have some really good stuff on it, and I think it benefits that they kind of zero in more on like a tight, like 2.5 minute Beatlesy power pop kind of thing, and just roll with that.
Gotcha.
For most of it.
Climbing up a tree to make it to the moon, staring at the sun, waste another day, share it with a friend, together on a cloud, it's just another dream.
Well, oh no, Pitchfork. It was Pitchfork. So, a couple years ago, I was looking through like old like late '90s Pitchfork, because I don't even know Pitchfork was around in the late '90s. It was they were
yeah.
And like they were the albums they were praising in like '98 and '99 were like Chibo Mato's Viva La Woman. They gave like a 9.7, which I fucking
don't
love.
even know what that
record.
is.
I love Chibo Mato's Viva La Woman. So debut, it's when they were really a lot more comedically absurd than they were just like artsy absurd.
Mm-hmm.
But I think those are the days that modern Pitchfork writers would kind of scoff at, like, oh, we liked Viva La Woman, more like, why did we give this such a high rating? Am I right?
More like Viva la man, because I don't know.
So
I was gonna try to make some kind of edgy political joke or something. I don't know.
more like man of La Mancha, am I right? Classic literature heads. Where am I
I'm cutting
at?
this out.
Oh. So another.
This is off the record.
This is off the record. This is off the record. I don't want anybody on my records. They're very fragile records.
Sir,
don't break them.
Mr. Scaramucci, it doesn't work like that. You can't say it after the fact.
I don't want that. I don't want this on the record. Shut up. This is not my records. I want OK Computer, please. Go grab me OK Computer. I don't want this record anymore.
Scaramucci singing the praises of 90s Radiohead. Is that going to be the new Richard Spencer being a big fan of Depeche Mode? Where they just totally disavow them?
Maybe. Oh, I wasn't even doing like a... I'm going to be honest. I was thinking of Stanley Tucci, not Scaramucci.
Oh.
I don't know why. I was thinking of Stanley Tucci. Praising radio.
I'm like Tucci with two breeze.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was my day.
We were talking about Stanley Kubrick earlier before going into this.
Yeah, because
that's
I
part
wrote
of the joke.
the Kubrick 2 bricks line before Danny Brown did. I have proof that I did it before Danny Brown. I want my royalties, Mr. Brown. I love your music. I think you are a great voice in hip hop today, and I just want I want my paid dues for thinking of Kubrick 2 bricks before you did. Goddamn.
You better not lose them 2 checks for Kubrick with 2 bricks.
That's a little that's pushing it. It's
2 checks.
2 chicks. Better scoop 2 chicks when you're talking about Kubrick. Bite through with 2 bricks.
Did I lose it?
You lose shit when you don't spit. Cryptically written, I'm coming to spit the.
I don't want to do this.
So let's move pitch. To what have you been listening to lately? Where are we talking?
Theme song.
What have you been listening to lately? What are the songs that you just gotta play me? The question comes up weekly, nightly, daily. So what have you been listening to lately?
Continue.
This podcast is turning out beautifully. What are you listening to lately? Where we talk about what exactly we have been listening to lately, and
very self-explanatory.
Like the past couple of episodes have been, we have a couple of overlaps, and then we're going to be giving you some rapid-fire suggestions, and we're going to start with the overlaps. Which would you like to start with, Mark? We have 2 this week.
I'd say there's one that's a little bit more high-profile. So for this, I think you guys can see that at this point in the year, we're just going, or at least I can speak for myself. I'm going through my backlog of just like stuff from months and months ago.
I'm doing the same thing.
I just got to get through. I'm pretty sure, yeah, like all these records in mine are from over a month ago at least.
Out of the 2 that we listened to, I listened to one of them months ago when it came out. And then the other one I listened to recently.
Yeah. So it's kind of the reverse for each of these. So one's a little more high profile. That's what you're referring to, is the one you listened to months ago. That I just listened to about a week ago. Would be one Paramore.
Yeah, After Laughter. After Laughter, which is a great title, by the way. I like that it kind of has this really nice rhyme to it. It's not a very normal rhyme.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's great. I think it might be my favorite Paramore record.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bold statement. I'm aligning with the melon here. I'm pulling my internet cred on this one.
Okay. I can respect that. Personally, I mean, I really enjoyed this thing. I think it's a freaking dang solid record. I think as far as Paramore fandom, I think I might be like somewhere between you and I'm between the Johns.
Okay, you're between the John boys. Okay.
So personally, the self-titled album, I think it was like my number 4 album of 2013. Like that one, like I enjoyed Riot for what it was. I think it's a solid pop punky record of the time, but was never like an all-time favorite.
Yeah.
But then that self-titled album came through with its it's funny, we were talking about an album with a lack of focus, and for me, with that album, that is what kind of made it and just totally blew me away. I thought that album was freaking fantastic with how all over the place it went, especially that last track, Future, which admittedly I was kind of hoping in the back of my mind that maybe there would be a couple excursions in that kind of vein on their next record, but I knew that wouldn't be the case.
Yeah.
But this record here, After Laughter, it's a nice kind of in a way it's kind of a natural progression because Ain't It Fun was a big hit off the last album.
Yeah.
That was and They Still Into You, and those are both great songs, both popular, and for this they decided to go more in kind of a bright, vibrant 80s pop kind of vein, and I really enjoy it for the most part.
I think that they are doing what their contemporaries are also doing infinitely better.
Looking at you, All Time Low. Looking at you, Fall Out Boy.
Looking at
all of you guys singing
like,
we're no guys, we're just evolving and just happening to sound like what's going on the radio now. No, this actually is evolving into poppier, happier things and making it sound natural.
So this is I'm gonna do a spoiler for my year-end list because I've been working on that, and I'm going to read the little write-up I put on that list as my description of my preference for the record.
Sure.
Completing the transformation into a primarily pop band has done wonders for Paramore, certainly executed better than every single one of their fellow former pop punkers for a few reasons. They keep things filled with 80s retro pastiche, which is cool now. It's been cool for the last couple of years. It suits Haley's voice better than it does any of the other voices that have tried to go pop. Patrick Stump does not have a voice for pop. Neither does Brendan.
For sure.
Urie.
They got to put those effects on it.
Yeah. And the lyric sheet here is wonderfully crafted. Instead of abandoning their roots, they've let them age gracefully. The lyrics on here are a lot. They're still bitter. They're still angsty like their earlier stuff, but it's more, we are getting older and we don't know how we feel about that. It was a surprise for me. One of the most pleasant surprises of the year.
Okay. Yeah. And personally, I did have I guess my main complaint, I guess you could say, is that on a few tracks, I got the sort of raw language of the lyrics I felt like could get a little bit too basic at times, but also on a lot of those tracks, the song was so fun and had such an awesome groove going on that I could overlook it a lot, especially on a song like Hard Times and Told You So, which are the two singles on this thing.
Yeah.
Personally, my favorites on this thing though were when the subject matter got a little bit more distinct, like a Rose-Colored Boy and Idol Worship. If I was going to make a list of my favorite songs of 2017 of the year, which I'd never done before, but if I was going to do it, those two would definitely be contenders. I really found myself gravitating to what they were talking about in those, especially Rose-Colored Boy. That's a message I wish I could have flung in a few people's directions this year. That's for sure.
I actually, my favorite cut is Caught in the Middle. And that would be a contender for one of my favorite songs of the year.
Interesting. That was maybe my least favorite.
I like the sort of ska guitar with the very upbeat, sunshiny chorus with lyrics that are so poignantly punctual. They're very specific. The bridge. I really love the bridge of that song. That I don't need no help. I can sabotage me by myself. That is an example of their angsty lyrics aging wonderfully.
Totally.
They take a lot of that bitter cynicism that is in a lot of pop punk and they let it mature into an unsure of their own mental or their own health and future in a way that these other guys are trying to do, like your Brendan Urie's and your Pete Wentz's are trying to do on some of their cuts, but don't know how to do it. So they're still partially trying to appeal to these generations that they aren't a part of anymore.
Yeah, and in those cases, there's never a sense of pandering on this album,
Not at all.
Because Because even in its poppiest moments, like Rose Colored Boy or like Hard Times or like Pool, it's like what bands or artists, if you really think about it, are getting crossover hits with this sound.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like moving it in a pop direction like this, like I'm saying, like it feels very like a natural progression of where they were going on their last record.
It suits,
and they have always had kind of a pop sensibility within the more pop punky kind of framework of like a Riot anyway. So again, it just makes logical sense as opposed to whatever the hell Young and Menace is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and they're less playing to the warped crowds. They're less playing to new warped crowds and more playing for newer, older. They're playing to older fans of theirs growing music tastes, because the same people that like this also like the last Carly Rae Jepsen album.
I was gonna say the exact same thing.
So they're doing it smart. They're doing it well. They know what works and they're expanding upon that, as opposed to trying to keep the same train rolling and running it into the ground. They don't want to. A lot of these bands don't want to evolve, and they want to evolve. They want to grow. Yeah.
So two last things I want to cap this one off with. I gotta know, what did you think of No Friend?
The one with the fucking weird ass.
The guy from Me Without You.
Yeah, that was all right. I liked it. I thought it was it didn't fit the record, but I don't think it was bad. I know Melon kind of crushed it. On his review of that, he didn't really like it.
He crushed it.
Hey, this is why we have a dynamic. You could say we have
the banter of it. Is
See, I was gonna make the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
But I liked the weird detour that was that song. It didn't fit the album really, but I didn't mind its presence. It was a nice texture that was more akin to their older stuff without pandering to it.
It kind of, if I was going to say there was a song that kind of followed up on like the super experimental nature of a song like Future, for example, it would probably be that. And just like how it's the one song on the album that doesn't have a pop structure,
Yeah, for sure.
And just kind of goes totally off the walls. And like, this album was probably a grower for me, just because at first I was kind of disappointed that it was kind of the same kind of framework for the entire first half. But then I grew to like appreciate all of like the first 7 tracks as like tracks I really loved.
Yeah.
And as well as songs like Idol Worship, like I was saying.
Hey baby, I'm not your superhuman, and if that's what you want, I hate to let you down. I got your hopes up, now I got you hoping that I'm gonna be the one to let you down.
And let's move on to the next one. The next one in our overlap might have not quite as much to say, but I still dig this record maybe about the same amount. I don't know how you feel personally, but it's a Diet Cig. Swear I'm good at this.
Diet Cig, yeah. So I actually checked this out. I added this to my list very recently, and I added it because of Crash's last.
I was gonna say
his last thing, his last Patreon
because he's brought them up a number of times.
Yeah, and he showed the picture of them in Japan Droids, and I texted him. I was like, I'm gonna sound really out of touch, but who is the other duo that was in Japan Droids that you posted a picture of? And he said Diet Cig, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna add that to my list since you gave it such high praise. And I checked it out, and I liked it.
So they are in sort of. I don't know how you describe them. It's like
they're twee pop.
Twee pop. Yeah, sort of indie pop. Sort of. I don't want to say like indie rock because that implies something. I would say like.
Oh no, it's very indie rock. It's judo core.
But I'd say like if you like the kind of the idea of Best Coast, but wish they were a little bit more energetic, maybe.
I think you're thinking too much about it. They're basically twee pop reverb with crunchy reverby guitars as opposed to atmospheric reverby guitars. They try to keep a minimalist sound thick with those ideals. I will say some of the lyrics made me laugh though. Especially the one in the first song. The line where she's talking about moaning her own name because she slept with a guy that had the same. I was like, I started laughing. I was like, what the fuck? No, it's like I was kind of weirded out by it.
but at the same time, like, I just kind of roll with it, at least in the case of that track. But yeah, there are a couple where you know, like, as adorable as this album was, the twee could get a little bit out of hand sometimes with, like, the quirk factor and all that. But I still enjoyed this thing overall.
I still enjoyed it. Like, I gave it a higher rating than a lower. Like, I gave it a more more favorable rating than Fastball, if that's going to tell you anything.
Oh damn.
I did like the record. I just feel like at points the album just got a little too self-indulgent in a very not good way as far as twee goes. Like, there's other twee I've heard this year that I like more. I don't think I'll ever say twee more in my life. The word has lost all meaning to me at this point. But, like, comparing it to...
I don't know. I'm not too familiar with the subgenre, but
well,
I've
like
heard
Always. Like, Always kind of has a twee touch to it. It's just a lot more...
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I was like...
Subdued.
Yeah, it's... But Always is more the vein of what twee pop kind of aims for, I feel like. Like, the only difference between that separates twee pop and Always is twee pop normally has a more intimate sound. Shit like Pamplemousse. Pamplemousse is kind of twee. They're like earlier stuff.
Okay.
It's got that same kind of charm, but Always transcends the genre almost, given its ideas. But now we're talking about something completely different. I thought the sound was all right, a little too self-indulgent.
And it's always you plebe.
I'm calling Always until the day I die because there's two V's in there. I call that movie The Vitch. I will call
Wait, hang on. Do you call them traverches?
Yeah.
Do you call them perverus?
Yeah, I call them pervis because it's not how you say Paris or churches. Those are V's. Those are not. I'm a writer, goddammit, and I don't care about your hashtag aesthetic. If you're gonna name your band something stupid, I'm gonna call it a stupid ass name.
Look, dude, it's called SEO. It's 2017. Get with it.
Listen, I'm from the 90s, okay?
Bring me my generically worded band name.
Bring me Weezer, the Blue Album, not Pinkerton.
No, I'm not. No, I didn't say I was wheezing. I want Weezer.
I want Weezer.
But only up to Pinkerton. They sold out with don't you bring me that Ratitude.
Don't bring me Islands in the Sun. I don't want it. So
I get burned very easily.
So, I'm guessing you cut us off and put the song in from Diet
I don't even know.
So from this point on, we have 4 quick rapid-fire recommendations that we're going to bounce off between. And
frick yes.
Mark, do you want to go ahead and throw what was your first recommendation to me? What that you wanted to talk about? Sure.
So the first one here, I'm going to go more of a simple recommendation. You know, sort of like it's a good recommendation.
Yep.
I gave a passing mention to Depeche Mode earlier.
Yeah.
You know, 80s. Synth, new wavy, dark synth, new wavy kind of legends, you know? Been around for a long time.
I like me some Depeche Mode.
Yeah, and they got a new record out. They put it out in March. I believe this is the oldest record in my backlog. They put it out. It's called Spirit. There was kind of hype, there was kind of buzz around it that they were like going political for once, which I found weird considering they have songs like People Are People and New Dress.
Yeah, they have political songs.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I mean, I guess because they had some more kind of blatant imagery in the Where's the Revolution video, but yeah.
I mean, but still,
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I do see that in this album. I haven't heard many of their full albums, honestly, outside Black Celebration and Delta Machine, the last one. Other than that, it's just mostly singles. But yeah, on this record, you do definitely get a sense of that. I think that it can falter in a couple points in just being like naturally Depeche Mode. You know, it tends to be very bleak. You know, that's just their style.
Yeah, that's kind of like
for basically everything. Post just can't get enough. You know?
Yeah, which is the Depeche Mode I like. Post just can't get enough.
Yeah, and you know, you that's part of the appeal. But I think in this case, lyrically, if there had to be a weakness, it's that it could get a little too like bleak and like nihilist, or like I don't want to say anything nihilistic, but it's like along those lines of just being like so overwhelmingly like negative and like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. That's just like, okay, this is or it can get a little overbearing at points, especially toward the end. But you know, songs like Going Backwards, the track I sent you, I think starts off the album really well. And in general,
so that's the opening track. I didn't know that was the opening track.
Yeah, which is weird because it's almost 6 minutes long, but it works. There's a lot of solid moments throughout it, you know, even with those weaknesses aside. It's just, even with the bleakness and stuff, they cut through it with some really good melodies, as they usually do. And Dave sounds like just as good as ever, like 30-some years later, which is kind of crazy.
I'll say, he doesn't sound like he's aged at all. I enjoyed that song. I thought it was good. It actually kind of makes me want to listen to the... Like, I don't even think it's on my backlog, just because... There's been a lot of records this year that I've been wanting to check out.
Totally.
There's been a handful of disappointments that I found though, and my top 50 that I've been slowly putting together this year has been full of a lot of newer bands that I've gotten into because I've had a lot of disappointments this year. But
interesting.
That actually made me want to listen to the new Depeche Mode record for sure.
Okay, yeah, because it's not going to be making too many like album of the year lists or anything, but it's definitely got enough great moments on it that if you're curious, if you want more of that Depeche Mode sound, definitely worth checking out.
Yeah,
before the year is over.
All right.
Going backwards, piling on the misery.
The first one I threw your way, in the same vein of an old group coming back, Godflesh's latest record, Post Self. I've realized that this year was the year for industrial and post-industrial because Godflesh still fucking got it. It's not as good as Street Cleaner. For those who don't know, Godflesh are one of the pioneers of industrial metal. They took the harsh soundscape of industrial, threw some metal edge on it, kept things kind of methodical but very dense. And on this new record, I was kind of surprised that they still kept the consistency high. My issues with it are less with the thickness, but more when they make their guitars punchy. The guitars on this record are better when they're dreary and almost shoegazy in how drenched in reverb they are. But they keep things incredibly dense and accented well with these harsh percussion and vocals. It's just whenever they get a little nu metal-y with the guitar work that I don't really like. But this song I sent you, I really enjoyed.
Okay, I knew absolutely nothing about this band.
Okay.
Although I did look on Wikipedia because their name sounded kind of familiar, but I think it's just because they reminded me of this metal band that had kind of a similar name.
Gotcha.
That kind of reminded me of. But anyway, I looked them up just out of curiosity while I was listening to this, and what the song I listened to, my thought was, yep, this guy has a very big pedal board.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that was one of the more quote unquote shoegazy songs that accents what the strengths of the records are, for sure.
Okay. And you know, for that kind of sound, you know, it's not something I would like always, foam at the mouth for.
Yeah.
But it's cool. But you know, if you want that kind of sound, I can see the appeal for it.
Cool.
Okay, and going straight into that tasteful bit of industrial shoegaze underground coolness, let's talk about Nickelback.
Yeah. Fuck you, Mark.
Okay, here's the thing. This is their first decent album since 2001.
I've refused to listen to it because it only sounds like the record anyway. I've refused to listen to the record.
Okay.
Because I've heard the song you sent me, and I heard the first song that came out, and everyone and their fucking mom was like, Nickelback are decent now! And I was like, Nickelback are breaking Benjamin now. That's all.
Well, those are the high points of the album, so if you don't like those...
then I'm not gonna like the new Nickelback album.
Yeah, you gotta temper your expectations a bit.
It's Nickelback! My expectations aren't gonna be high.
So I'm gonna give my perspective as a admitted Nickelback apologist. Let's say that.
Okay.
you know, I'm one of those people that will defend those first 2 albums. 2.5, Silver Side Up has its moments, and those independent Canadian albums worth going to for some decent post-grunge. Which may sound like an oxymoron. Shut up. But yeah, Feed the Machine, when that title track came out, you know, first off, it pushed past 5 minutes, and also, like, it had, like, this... I'll put it like this. This is the first album since 2001 where Nickelback is trying to an extent. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't sound quite as much like they had the quota for, we gotta get this bro anthem in, we gotta get this strip club anthem in, we gotta get the song for the girls in, we gotta get this song about this pandering song about social issues in. You know, it doesn't sound quite as much like they're trying to, like it did for the last few albums, like they're trying to please everyone and end up pleasing no one. Like this one, you could see, at least for some songs, like, they had an idea. How well executed it is questionable, and you definitely saw some pandering in some moments. But I can say confidently that this has at least double a ratio of songs to keep in iTunes versus songs to skip versus everything else since the Silver Side Up days. So, if that means anything to you...
I'm gonna be honest, Mark, it doesn't, because the song you linked me, first off, sounded like a Metallica Black Album ballad ripoff, and then it kicked into Alter Bridge, Diet Alter Bridge, which is already just better Creed. And
damn.
See, I was in this, I had this time when I first found Alter Bridge that I was impressed, because the guys in Creed are good musicians, and they found a singer who has clout as far as talent is concerned. But they still kind of retain that butt-rocky nature that, as I've gotten to be more of a cynical asshole, I don't like as much anymore.
And you know what? If you find Alter Bridge too butt-rocky, yeah, even this album is not going to convince you.
And that's my well, I will say this as well. Watching the video, Chad Kroeger looks less like Chad Kroeger and more like an HGTV host who fixes up your house, which I thought was kind of weird. I was like, that doesn't look like Chad Kroeger. Did they get someone new?
I mean, he ditched the ramen hair a decade ago, but I gotcha.
No, but like his haircut now, like I knew he cut his hair, but like how it looks in that video, he looks like Ty Bennington's ugly ass brother. For those Extreme Makeover Home Edition fans who are listening to Mad Sounds, probably no one. That was
huge
for you.
Overlap. The Venn diagram is just one circle.
It's
for that.
I knew that reference was dated when you had this look on your face, like, who the fuck is that?
I was humoring you.
No, I appreciate it.
Put on the Home Makeover.
Put on Extreme Makeover Home Edition. I want to see Ty Pennington. I want to see Ty Pennington in his coifty hair.
Put on Nickelback album. Put on The State.
Yeah.
I want to hear 90's Nickelback. If you dare to put on If Today Was Your Last Day, I'll cut you.
See, but now you're not appealing to my age demographic, because a lot of people my age don't like Nickelback.
I liked Nickelback before they went mainstream.
I liked Nickelback when they were Creed.
What is this bit anymore?
This bit is amazing. I love that we're continuing it.
This is the best bit since Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
Yeah, a shout out to the OG fans who remember that episode where he previously referenced Johnny Tsunami.
Yeah.
You remember in your Chris Brown stream.
Yeah.
Brown stream.
Only the classiest of humor here.
Nurse, I have a brown stream.
Oh my god.
We're in our 20s.
We're adults.
I'm old enough to drink now.
Yeah, we're voting citizens.
Okay, but you remember in that you were talking about one really cringy Chris Brown lyric. I forgot what it was. And then I referenced in the chat that Nickelback started out a song this year with the line, "Hang on, let me look up this song. Do you mind if I look up this song?
Go for it, man.
I'm not gonna have you listen to it. I'm not gonna punish you.
Good.
You already went through enough with that, Chris Brown.
I did.
But I wanted to point you in the direction of one song from this album I spent a lot of it kind of begrudgingly defending Feed the Machine. But on the other side of things, you got a song like Must Be Nice, as made semi-famous on the last Dose of Buckley musical autopsy, because, Canadian, he probably actually heard that on the radio, God bless his soul.
I can't even imagine Canadian radio. Oh my God.
Because
I feel for you guys up north.
Because God knows in America we don't care about Nickelback on the charts anymore. It's
No,
probably
we care about 21
this
Pilots.
decade.
And Imagine Dragons.
Are you calling 21 Pilots the new Nickelback?
No, I'm calling Imagine Dragons the new Nickelback. I'm pulling a Todd.
Okay.
I'm calling, yeah.
Okay, good. Just checking.
What? If I don't like
Watch
21 Pilots, what the fuck? Does that make me the fucking Antichrist too? Because I don't like Saturday Night Live and fucking...
Well, probably because they're Christian, you Satanist.
I mean, no, I'm just Jewish. They don't like me for that.
So Must Be Nice starts out with a line. Okay, I'm gonna put in some nice lounge piano in the background here. I'm gonna recite it. Should I recite it in the style of the Soul Coughing guy?
Yeah, do it. I was gonna say, I was literally about to ask, are you gonna do it in the style of Mike Doherty?
Let's do it. 1 step, 2 step, electric slide. Red fish, blue fish, blow your mind. Engine, number 9. Mama's gonna let you set the moon on fire. Jack be nimble, Jack be quick. Jack wound up with a broken neck. Humpty Dumpty, do your thing. Daddy's gonna buy you a diamond ring. Susie Steamboat, you're so fine. Grant the wish I wish tonight. Tinker, Tailor, what you got? Wheels on the bus are falling off. Pretty maids all in a row. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 3 bags full. Silver spoon at supper time. 4 and 20 blackbirds. Oh, so high. Thank you. Those were the 2 verses.
That's fucking terrible. That's fucking
Right?
atrocious, Mark. How... And I'm only saying this because I try to look at an album as a whole experience. That's why I looked at the Fastball and I was like, it has some good songs, but it's a little inconsistent. How can you look at that and go, I can defend that record?
I didn't defend that song.
I mean, but dude, that's atrocious.
Yes. And that's why it's like I struggled so hard between the 5.5 and the 6, and looking at it now, I'm probably going to demote it back to the 5.5.
You're giving this album a 5.5 out of 10?
I'm talking about the album. I'm talking about the thing as a whole because I don't really have this. Because, again, there are very tempered expectations here. Okay? Like, the fact that it sounds like they gave even a fraction of a shit, it's a step in the right direction back to those estate days of being pretty good. But not quite there.
We differ. I mean, I also gave Feed the Machine like a 2 out of 10, maybe. I gave the song like a 2 or 3 out of 10. The song 3 out of 10.
Whoa, okay, so we are on 2 different wavelengths.
Yeah, because I think that song is garbage trash, if I'm being frank. And I'm not Frank, but I'll be him for a minute.
Bring me Frank!
I want to be Frank! Your name is Frank. Then I'm Frank!
Bring me the movie Frank. It reminds me of my old days as a hipster.
But I'll be honest, and it's because I don't like that sound.
That's cool. That's cool.
Like, I don't enjoy overcompressed guitars with drums that don't belong with that are as overcompressed. It's that, like, I'm all for music that doesn't sound dirty. Like, I can still throw on Dream Theater and enjoy some of their stuff, but I can't I just don't have it in me to enjoy that his voice.
Yeah, and you know what I'm gonna give you is that it's weird. It's like every album, like from here and now, basically everything from this decade, like in addition to the usual, you know, super clean, polished production and stuff, there's just been like these more and more just added layers of like just like compression to the point where it like warps the song.
Yeah, and that's called overcompression, and it's not good.
And it's like more effects added to Chad's voice to make it more and more sandpapery, like even during the ballads.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Brought the wolves right here. You brought the kiss of death. You just betrayed us. The moment we roll back, waiting. No one can say the words you won't believe until he's gone. Go on.
let's move on to the conscious hip hop album you liked. Okay, let's give you a break. You've been through enough over the past couple days, you know.
But Talib Kweli, he put out a record, jumping from post-industrial, from industrial noise to conscious hip-hop. Talib Kweli's newest record, Radio Silence, I checked out because I like Talib Kweli. I think he's probably in my top 20 of favorite rappers. The dude's got skill. And he shows it on this. He shows that he hasn't aged. He did this year what Common did last year in the fact that he's a conscious rapper who still has a lot to say and still spits with that same ferocity that he had when he was just starting out. His verses on this are so as tightly woven as he's known for with this production that you might not think would suit it because it's a lot of mellow production. There's a song with Waka Flocka Flame on there, which is a little weird, but more often than not, the production's a little more soothing, which is, again, what he kind of does, but it works. It works so well. And the song I sent you is the opener. It's the first song on the album.
Sounds like it. Sounds like it.
It sets the stage well, I feel like, for the record to follow.
Yeah, I only listened to it once, and I didn't really have Genius in front of me, so I wasn't able to like dissect the lyrics and stuff. But I mean, you know, the few lines that I made out, you know, you could tell the guy's definitely more on the lyrical side of things.
Oh, for sure.
Which definitely appreciate. He had a nice kind of steady flow going throughout it. Kept a nice pace. The beat was like very nice and kind of bright, kind of sunshiny.
Yeah.
And I feel like we need a little bit more in this age of like hip hop where it's like very desaturated and stuff. I always appreciate an act like that can come through with something a little bit, something a little bit more chipper.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
And from what you're saying, there seems to be a little bit more substance to add on to that too, right?
Oh yeah, no, he's a super conscious dude. He speaks about politicalness to some degree on the record. He talks about things that would matter to a conscious rapper.
Okay.
And he does it with the same ferocity that, again, he's known for. He hasn't lost his touch, which was kind of shocking to hear, especially given in a year of a lot of disappointments. I was again surprised.
Yeah, and because like I couldn't tell you a name of a song from this guy, even though I've heard about him, you know, as long as I've been keeping up with hip hop. But you know, I know that he's been around for like a couple decades or something.
Yeah, he started in the late 90s. Yeah, the mid to late 90s.
So yeah, like the fact that he is still able to come through with something quality, you know, definitely got to be commended. For
sure. I liked it a lot. I was, again, surprised.
I'm in these streets like potholes, where the guns make Illinois to Chicago. Bat, like staccato. I spit it like it just finished gargling. The velocity marvelous, get your goggles, we hit it at full throttle. I'm praying for a better tomorrow. My candles burning slow as Cubanos. I'm seeing red like Ricky Ricardo.
Awesome. And moving on from I liked it a lot, let's talk about New Politics.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so I don't want to talk crap about this band, mostly because they have the distinction of being of the fact that I interviewed them on my 18th birthday. You can go back in the archives of the channel. Most of the 2014 stuff is cringy. I'm actually still pretty proud of that.
Okay.
Mostly because, and they're really cool guys. They're for those guys who don't know, they're a Danish pop rock trio. Well, 2/3 Danish, 1/3 New York. But they've had a couple kind of alt hits since 2010. That song "Yeah Yeah Yeah" was kind of big. Harlem was another big one. Both those songs are pretty great. It's kind of loud in your face, slightly rap infused, but not in a cringy way. Like perfect, like sort of alty pop gems. There's a nice kind of immediate infectious band. You know, not too challenging, but you know that's not what they're going for. So you can appreciate it. Their last album, Vikings, I reviewed on the channel. It was their first album on DCD2, and you could really hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had a lot of the same problems as other albums that have been a product of DCD2. It was very unfocused. It was very, like, pandery to certain audiences in certain spots. But, you know, it wasn't terrible. Had some great moments on it. This new album, Lost in Translation, okay, I guess before anything else, because this is another kind of unfocused record, but I kind of want to know what you thought of the song, because that's like the song One of Us is like the big single they were pushing, like in DCD2 style, like months before the album itself was announced.
So I don't know if it's because of the video or because of the style used in the video, or if I genuinely feel this way about the music, but it reminded me of a band I don't actually like at all, but I liked this more than the band I'm thinking of, and that was Congos. I fucking hate Congos.
Oh, you don't... Whoa!
I fucking hate Congos.
This is a hot take I did not expect.
I fucking hate Congos with a passion. I think their singles are fucking stupid. I hate Come With Me Now so goddamn much. It is one
Okay, so we had to restart the recording because I was doing a visual gag for this podcast where his hot take was making me scoot further back in my seat, and it made me unplug my mic.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But because keep in mind, for those of you guys who don't know, Come With Me Now was number one on my list of my favorite hit songs 2014, and Egomaniac was my number 14 album of 2016. So this onslaught of Congos hate was just like, I'm okay with it, but it's also like very okay.
Yeah, I don't like Congos. And this song,
but One of Us,
this song reminded me of Congos to a degree. I don't know if it's because of how the production was done, or again, it was because of the video, because it was kind of, there were some effects that were used in some of their videos. It was
very trippy. It's a very trippy video.
Yeah. But I think the song is alright. It's kind of the alternative charts, if I'm being very hipstery for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like one of my, like, it's I wouldn't rank it among like my favorites of theirs, but it just seemed like the song to link.
Gotcha.
You know?
No, I understand. Like it was okay. Again, it reminded me of a band I don't like, but did it make me hate the song because of it? So take that what you will, make of that what you will.
And yeah, honestly, your feeling of like it's okay, like that kind of translated my feelings on here. Like, I think this is maybe their weakest album yet, just because it is more spotty, but at the same time, like, there are just tracks where, unlike on that one where I could see who they'd be pandering to, like, in this case, like, there are some tracks, like, for example, they had one feature on here, they had Rivers Cuomo on one song, and they totally wasted him.
Yeah.
On the song Tell Your Dad. He's just doing the chorus on it, and the lyrics are like something out of Ratitude. And then like the song after that, I'll put it like this: the instrumental for it sounds like the Goofy Goober song.
Like the Twisted Sister cover or the original?
No, the I'm a Goofy Goober, yeah, like the legit like first one in the movie, Ice Cream Parlor,
gotcha,
Peanut,
okay.
that Goofy Goober song.
Fucking like,
because the thing that you can get, because the thing you can grasp with One of Us is like, you know, the other influence that more people pulled is that there's kind of a Queen thing they're going for, especially with like some of the harmonies and stuff like that. And on a couple tracks, like, they are trying to go for like, I guess, more of like an old style kind of thing. And anytime they do that, it just sounds off, you know. There are some more like streamlined kind of pop moments that work out a little bit better. And actually, it's funny you mentioned compression in the case of Nickelback, because there are a couple tracks on here where like it's that weird thing where if the volume is low, you can't hear it, but if you turn up one little bit more, it sounds too loud because of the compression, but you still can't hear the song itself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was one of those where it's just like I didn't even know what it was doing. And I probably dedicated a little bit too much time to this anyway, but again, I feel like kind of indebted to talk about this a little bit just because I have that connection with them.
Yeah.
You know, I'll probably cut some of this out.
So, can I do a small hot take before I jump into the... I know I've had a lot of hot takes. This has been Johnny's spicy episode.
You're filling your damn quota, buddy.
So and this stems off of a lot of conversations we've had in this episode about music. And it's more of a problem nowadays, especially. Artists have no foundation anymore when they're making music.
Yes.
And that's a problem. Like, and this is coming from a guy who Mr. Bungle is one of his favorite bands. Mr. Bungle being one of the most abstract, weird, obtuse bands I've ever heard of. But they still keep a character. They keep it concise. They also keep it consistent. If you're going to commit to being an erratic sound or trying different things, you need to commit.
Or you need to get what makes each of those sounds work in the first place instead of just making it a novelty to do in the first place.
Don't half-ass it. Full ass, you know? But that's it. It was a small
Put
take.
your ass right in that soundboard.
That was it. It's a small little take because it's been a theme this episode, and I felt like...
I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
I'm totally with you because, like, in the case of, like, those... Honestly, this is perfect case in point with New Politics because, like, their first couple records, like, you know, Bad Girl in Harlem, their second album, it did have a couple more kind of blatant pop moments, but even then, like, on those first two records, they had a sound that they went through. There was like a contrast of like a crunchier guitar presence with kind of a more off the wall vocal presence that maybe was a little bit more yelly at points, a little bit more rappy at points, but also had like these like candy coated pop hooks. But it was a contrast that like all worked within the same circle. You could see the album existing all in the same world. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But on the last two, like you can see the different focus groups at work on each song. Exactly. Or at least like them maybe being in a totally different headspace on each song. Yeah. And it weakens the whole the full product.
And that's frustrating to me because like I don't know. I guess you're more forgiving of that. I guess because you're willing to.
I mean, because it can work in certain spots. Like, you know, we were talking about the self-titled Paramore album earlier, and in that case, I feel like the fact that or like the 1975 album, where like they're just so committed to being so expansive and all over the place that's like the wacky like scatterbrain nature of it kind of becomes part of the character for me. Whereas, like, if it's a 10-track, half-hour album, like, I expect at least a little bit of conciseness in the form of knowing what you're doing.
That's still where we separate from the 1975. I still think they spread themselves too thin on their last record.
But a general principle. I was just giving a specific case.
Gotcha, yeah. I mean, but that's a record that everyone loves that does all this diverse shit. But I still don't feel like they understand completely what makes a lot of those albums work. But anyway.
But again, like I'm just giving us, it's just the idea is definitely something that we agree on.
Yeah.
Even when you're lonely, no, you're not alone. You want the fast, bring the sunshine in the happy days.
So the last two that I recommended were from binges that I've been going on because a little behind the scenes, whenever we send each other our what have we been listening to lists and we cherry pick things, there's usually binges that we'll have in there like I've been listening to this artist a lot or that artist instead of specific albums. And one of the first one I threw out there was a duo of brothers, Scala and Kolacny. They're Finnish brothers and they work with this female choir, and they do covers of songs. That's their shtick. It's very gimmicky, but I like this gimmick. They were known for their Creep cover because they did a cover of Radiohead's Creep that was used in the Social Network soundtrack. I linked you a different Radiohead cover.
I think I've heard the Creep one at some point.
I don't know. It came up I was listening to it at a friend's house, and then I just kept listening to it after that because it was one of those times where I guess I just wanted to binge them. I like their style. It's very gimmicky, but it's a gimmick that I enjoy. Sometimes it works. Like their cover of Under the Bridge is really good, but their cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit, I feel like kind of falls flat. It's very hit or miss with the songs that they choose to do, but when it hits, I feel like it hits really well.
And the last one that I did is actually one that I was meaning to get to like a few weeks ago, but I'm glad that I was able to get to it now. Stick to Your Guns. The Orange County metalcore. Now I guess you could say veterans. They've been around for like a decade or so. With their new album True View. I don't know like how like into personally I am very picky when it comes to this style, and I found that Stick to Your Guns is one of the few bands that really does stand out to me, like both for having sort of a message to what they're doing, but not being super pandery and generic about it, and just having just like a crap load of like the key word of the day when I was talking about the stuff earlier, conviction. Like say what you want about them, but you believe Jesse when he's screaming his freaking affirmation statements at you. And if you can get into that kind of thing, sort of getting past maybe some admittedly cheesier elements here and there, then it's something that I personally get into.
So yeah. I actually have this weird history with Stick to Your Guns.
Really? I didn't know how familiar with them you were.
I'm fairly familiar. One of my former friends is a giant fan of theirs. He has a tattoo of one of their albums.
Okay, yeah. They have a very tattooable logo.
Yeah, I thought they were okay when he and I were friends. Now they just kind of leave a bitter taste in my mouth because anytime I hear him, I'm like, oh, he kind of dicked me over. Cool, reminds me of my former friend. That's great.
I hear you.
But as far as how they sound, if I can separate my history with the music, I kind of disagree with you. They sound very bro-core-y. They sound very bro-metal-y. As far as their sound goes, they use a lot of chugga breakdowns. They use a lot of their vocals are very bro-core-ish, while their lyrics may be a little more sincere, which I enjoy. I always have this hard time fully engaging with the music itself as far as metalcore is concerned because it's a little more bro-ish. Like in high school, I probably would have liked this a little more, but even in high school, I had some aversions to stuff that was this bro-y, personally.
Okay, and I'll say this is probably like right up to, if we're using bro-y as the word, then yeah, this is probably like right up to the line for me.
Yeah.
But I think I just have maybe a bit higher of a threshold, and who knows, maybe it is an age thing. Like once I get out of college, you know.
Yeah, maybe
It'll probably yeah. The thing about like this album specifically that's interesting is that, so like on the last couple albums, like they kind of went back and forth between, you know, more political statements and more personal stuff. The last album, Disobedient, like if you take one look at that album cover, you can see like they went heavy into topics of like police brutality and like government corruption and all that.
Yeah.
Whereas here they went a lot more, it's like now, it's funny, now in 2017, and they directly talked about this, in 2017, you'd think they would lean more heavily into that, but they actually took more of a conscious effort to not, you know, just hop on that train, which, you know, regardless of what you think about the music itself, I think is pretty admirable.
I will say that's something I do talk about in one of my things.
Yeah, and taking more of kind of an introspective look at more kind of the mindsets that would go into, like, how you approach other outside things in life, I suppose.
Yeah. I delve into politics in America in my of the year list breakdown, so I like that aspect of it, of that record that I haven't heard yet, but I like that they're taking that approach. Yeah, I still don't know if I'll listen to it just because again they kind of leave a weird taste in my mouth, but I did.
Right.
It was a thing that I heard. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's all right.
Right. I think I like it more because I've only heard their last 3 albums at this point, and I think I like this album more than those other 2. But the only maybe hang up I have is that the choruses and hooks aren't quite as immediate, so it doesn't quite stick in the brain as much. But I think that personally, on a lyrical level, I found it resonating with me a little bit more, which kind of offsets a couple of those weaknesses. So if you like those kind of, you know, things to sort of heavier chug riffs to get you in your feelings,
then they're the way to do it.
Hey guys, if you want a thing to put on your shrink wrap sticker, that's it.
I will say it.
Stick to your guns. Heavier bro chugs to get you in your feelings. Since 2005.
Heavier bro chugs making you want some bro hugs. I will say, after I listened to the song you sent me, I listened to Stick to Your Guns by WHYBLTL, because every time I see that name now, I think of the song that WHYBLTL did that is infinitely better.
Shots fired. Oh, by the way, I do want to make this an opportunity to do a tie-in to another thing. I actually also talked about this in an episode of the OCML podcast that's going to be coming out soon. The topic was on talking about social issues in music for change. And I brought up these guys as an example because these guys are from Orange County, as an example of how to approach the topic more indirectly, I suppose.
Okay.
So yeah, and that episode is going to be coming out in the next couple weeks, and I'm going to be talking about this more in the intro as well as the update video I did earlier on the channel. Yeah. So yeah, I just want to give a little extra plug there.
No cross promotion.
And your last thing?
So the other thing I've been listening to a lot lately, one, because I've been putting off listening to their second soundtrack they put out this year, but the soundtrack work of my Lord and Savior Trent Reznor and his cohort Atticus Ross. I've just been on a binge of their stuff. 9 Inch Nails is my favorite band. I periodically throw their stuff on, and Trent's solo stuff and How to Destroy Angels, and I've just been on their scores lately. I love their film scores. I haven't seen Patriots Day, what I linked you to, but I have heard the soundtrack a lot. And that's the first of 2 soundtracks they did this year. The other one was for the Vietnam War, Ken Burns documentary. But they're spreading their wings. And while I liked the 3 soundtracks they did with David Fincher, Social Network, Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, and Gone Girl, and I think that they have this nice little almost trilogy arc as soundtracks and as pieces of instrumental work. I really like the stuff that's on this Patriots Day soundtrack. I like that the tension is a little more electronically focused, a la 9 Inch Nails. I think that the synth choices are a little more Carpenter-esque, which is a nice little expansion on their sound, and fitting given they remade the Halloween theme this year. I don't know. I've always really admired Trent's and Atticus's film score work, and I think that they're a great testament of how to do modern film scores while not losing your touch as an artist.
Okay, that is respectable. I mean, like, and also the fact that I didn't even know they did 2 soundtracks this year, plus that EP. Like, that's impressive.
Putting in their work, man. That they definitely are. They did 2 EPs. They've done 2 EPs in the last year. They've done 3. They did a soundtrack last year too. Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, because it is in the last calendar year. Yeah, they've done 2 EPs and 2 soundtracks. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Because I was thinking like they put out 1 EP this year and then 1 last year. But yeah, that was in December.
Yeah, that was.
And that was my number 1 EP of last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still haven't gotten to that new one. By the way, I'll probably cover that later on.
It's
good. I believe you.
The only reason why I linked you the song that I linked you, because I linked you a song purely on its title.
Obama and Coffee.
It's not my favorite song on the Patriots Day soundtrack, but the name Obama and Coffee for a tense, ambient song is just fucking hilarious to me. Like,
yeah. I mean, if you were gonna be stupid about that kind of thing, you might as well just sneak it into the title of a film score where people aren't gonna be looking as much at the track titles anyway.
Right, but like, it's so funny to me, like, the rest of them, it's like, The Night Drive, Shootout, Shoot Cameron, Obama and Coffee. Like, it sticks out like a sore thumb in the track listing names. But yeah,
I like my Obama how I like my coffee.
Yeah.
You fill in the blank.
I like my president how I like my coffee. Schotesford at the Cheeto.
Not completely black.
Yeah, not fully black, but black enough.
Not too. Okay. I hope you understand. Thank you for tuning to this episode of the Mad Sounds Podcast.
Listen here. I just gotta tell you. I want my Power Rangers! I want my Mighty Morphin Power Rangers!
I want my ballot for the 2008 election!
I want my Tumblr back!
I want my Blogspot account from 2005!
I want MySpace back!
I want my Friendster!
I legitimately don't know anyone who used Friendster.
I mean, that was before my time. I just hear it used in the context of irrelevant social networks.
I mean, yeah. I want my Google Plus account!
Nurse, take me to the nearest GeoCity!
I want an Orange Julius!
It's okay, sir. We do still have those.
Then can I have a mango?
Sir, I think you may be going a little too senile. You're breaking the bit. Your podcast co-host is going to be very disappointed.
I want Modest Mouse when they gave a damn!
I want that first album with the really long name I can't remember.
It's a People's News Day. I want that one. I want People's News Day with the song about floating. I want that one.
So besides your plebeian, do you even know doing the cockroach?
I like how your old person's like really shrilling up here, and mine is down here. It's a nice little dichotomy.
You got more the Mermaid Man going on.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
and I'm more like the old man that's like one line in an episode in a retirement home. You know?
Yeah. I love the young people.
Exactly. Or like that old guy or like the real life old guy that made the cameo in that one, give him the thumbs up for like old people are wise and stuff.
Yeah. I want SpongeBob when Steven Hillenburg was still writing it.
Sir, Steven Hillenburg is still here. Not good enough.
I want it before the movie. Pre-movie. I've been legitimately coughing.
The B-movie.
I want Generation 1 Pokemon. I want my Pogs. I want Double Dare. I want Legends of the Hidden Temple. I want the Shrine of the Silver Monkey.
I want my skateboard from the Rocket Power days.
I want Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 featuring Papa Roach and Rage Against the Machine.
More like Grandpapa Roach, am I right? More like Grandpapa Roasted.
I've been wondering when you're gonna fade in the music and cut us off. I'm assuming it's
now.
You're like 2 seconds ahead of me mentally today. It's great.
And nothing more.
Nothing less.
Oh, and follow me on Twitter at @MarkMatt.
You follow me on YouTube, Twitter. Follow me on my links.
Chris Brown livestream. I was the only one there. Don't make us feel alone.
My sound waves are fucking nuts.